He really does give us best, like, Johnny Depp, Pirates of the Caribbean, like, madman running.
Yeah, but after he blows
Like,
that horn, suddenly he's moving like a ballerina doing Swan Lake.
yeah. Old Matt. For full podcast episodes, early access episodes, and ad-free episodes, check out Road to Tarvalon on Patreon or YouTube memberships. For other ways to help support the channel, make sure you like and subscribe. Hello and welcome back to the channel. Amber here with Laura, and we are finishing our Season 2 rewatch of the Wheel of Time podcast. Laura, it's good to be at the end, but also
sad to be at the end.
Sad to be at the end. How did you feel about this cold open?
Ooh, I actually really enjoyed the cold open because we get to like momentarily look into the relationship between Lews Therin and Ishi.
Yeah.
Just for a moment, we get to peek inside.
Yeah. We haven't really gotten to see the action of how everything went down, before this sealing of Ishamael, and how the entire world was in a war. So it's like, channelers going buck wild and just chaos, mayhem, terrorism, all of it. And you kind of have to wonder, with all of that happening, is there going to be a point in the show where we get to see that large scale version of chaos? Because for the most part, and I understand why it's done this way, our Age of Legends flashbacks have been very contained into areas where they can shoot it without having to do a lot of CGI. Now, there was the one panning scene of the Age of Legends where we've got, flying vehicles and stuff like that. But this scene, it's just like, looks like it's in a cave, and
Yeah.
there's nothing to really visually clue you in to just how ravaged the world was. And I know there's so much of the story that needs to be told, so it's just like, how much do you want to see versus how much build up for the, our Emmons Field characters or some of our new characters. And it's, that's a lot of balancing to do where I don't know. But enough about Age of Legends. Let's talk some of our character moments this
okay.
episode.
Who are we starting with?
Who do you want to start with?
I guess we could start with the renewed bond between Moiraine and Lan during their reunion, and how their relationship reaches this turning point as they reaffirm their trust in each other. Girl, I was basically, again, as though I've never seen it before, rooting and cheering because I'm so excited for this moment to have finally happened.
Yeah, I think these two characters need to be on the same wavelength, and they need to be connected for our story to go on. And that was just torturous.
I know.
Watching them fight.
I'm really hoping that this moment really strengthens their dynamic as a team going forward. We've worked through some of their issues that they have with each other. It seems like they're on the same page again. They're back to trusting each other. And to me, their dynamic seems really important for the future.
I would agree.
In the moment where it's after her and Lan have already reconciled, where she says, I will let 1,000 people die if that's what it means for him to live. That is what it means to support him. You do understand that. This is peak Moiraine right here.
Yeah.
That is who she is. That is who her mission is. I think that it really exemplifies her role in guiding Rand, even as she wrestles with her own limitations. But it really reflects how deeply committed she is in her dedication to the side of the light.
Yeah. I know there's book lines from Moiraine that are just so similar in her demeanor, where I think she even said it in season 1, I'll kill you myself rather than let the Dark One take you. I will cut you down right here if there is any chance you are turning to the other side. And that's Moiraine. It's not so much about I'm here for Rand because I really care about this kid. This is like she's got the full scope of everything. Like it isn't just him. It isn't just her family, like her friends. Her number one is this cause. It's not one person, it's everyone and winning. And you gotta love that about Moraine.
Absolutely. You know, it's kind of interesting to me because I think like the fact that the Aes Sedai don't age naturally, they have like that Dunedain vibe to them. I think that really like actually serves to help because she could cut Rand down and just wait 20 years. Just cut him down and then give it some time and go back out there and find the new one again and try all over.
Even on a bigger scale, if, everyone is destined to be reborn,
Right.
all anyone has is time.
It's very utilitarian when you look at it like from the aspect of reincarnation. Like it's just doing what needs to be done to make sure the outcome that you want transpires.
Yeah, and Ishi's playing that game too.
Yeah, which I think makes them really well suited as like opponents, even though they're not like power matched to each other. Like obviously Ishi is, a final boss level power compared to Moraine. But
Yeah.
I do think that the way that they move and their like machinations of manipulation are kind of similar.
Yeah, I would agree. I always think about that scene of Moraine holding the knife and presenting it to Logain like, you give me what I want, I'll give you what you want, where it's just like cold blooded.
Yeah, but if you got to let them die to get what you want, then, guess you got to do that. But turns out Lan is actually the one who will, who will follow through.
Yeah, that's true. So, moving a little bit forward, Children of the Light are back. They've got this scene straight after the cold open of Dain Bornhald and Geofram Bornhald, the Bornhalds.
I'm going to be honest with you. Geofram had his big one in this episode. There are several moments that really do stand out for me from that character.
I think so too. So, Geofram Bornhald really surprisingly was to a T correct in his plan. The way that he had manipulated the situation in Falme to the advantage of the Children of the Light.
It was pretty brilliant, honestly.
It was. It was. This is a puzzle he's been able to work out in a way that just it has so much background in the Wheel of Time books, the entire story. There are so many instances where something is happening in one part of the world and someone is sending a message off to the White Tower begging for help. And the Aes Sedai can be kind of standoffish. In some instances, you'll have one Amerlin where she gets a letter, she doesn't want to help, she doesn't help, and a nation falls. That's the entire, backstory of what happened to the Two Rivers before it was the Two Rivers.
Okay.
Lan's homeland, Malkier, it was another similar situation, kind of, where Malkier called for assistance. It was, falling to the shadow. The Aes Sedai couldn't get there on time. And rather than the world think that the Aes Sedai had failed, they put their PR like, we just didn't feel like helping, And so the world just assumed that the Aes Sedai didn't want to help. Malkier falls.
Ah, okay. So, yeah, they reach that like crux of power where it works against you. Power is more important than like hearts and minds to them, it explains a lot why the small folk really, really despise them.
Yeah, I mean, there's in some cases it's like, yes, the Aes Sedai are here, and then bowing and scraping and bending and essentially worship. But then you have other areas where it's like, this is an Aes Sedai free zone,
Right.
like we're not a fan.
There's that scene where Joffrem and Dain are coming with, I would say, like a small, not like a small, but like, a group of soldiers of the light, and Joffrem's yelling like to the people of Seanchan, like, cast off these slave drivers and join us. Pick up your weapons and help us fight them, free yourselves kind of thing. And it's a really brilliant move tactically for him because
I'm
now,
nodding my head in
yeah,
agreement so hard right here.
because he's like bolstering numbers to make up for fallen soldiers. And I get that like you need a handful of peasants for every trained soldier that falls, but still, like he's getting the people of Falme to turn against the Seanchan, which will really turn the tides for them.
Yeah.
Now, there are definitely things that happen that they could not have tactically foreseen happening that like really throw this all off. But I think like the underlying tactical maneuvering is brilliant.
In this instance, I can understand and see how they are a force to be reckoned with and not
Yeah.
just bumbling idiots. So I appreciate that a lot.
Yeah, because in season one, they kind of come across as like a religious hall monitor.
Yeah.
Though I will say, for as much as I appreciate Geofram's like tactical prowess, I've never been so excited to see someone die.
Oh, girl. Uh, the Hopper thing gets me every time.
Sobbing. I was sobbing.
Terrible. It's terrible in the books, but seeing it visually, I'm a mess every time.
The moment
It's so bad.
we zoom in on Hopper's like sad eyes, I just like I have to look away or else I'm gonna like hysterically sob.
Yeah. It's really building on season one, everything that happened with his wife.
Yeah.
He's experienced a lot of loss, lost his wife, to an extent, lost Matt. He thinks he lost Rand. He's there on this mission, essentially just trying to free these people who are taken by the Seanchan. That's the whole reason he has shown up.
Right.
And to have this one, I'm going to call Hopper a character, this one character that's been with him, that chose him, who's been unwavering and supportive and like helpful and a friend, like this whole like package of what Hopper means to Perrin is a lot for Perrin's story. Even, not even looking to the future, but just how Perrin grows into himself. And to have that happen and to see that happen, it's just like, oh my God.
It is horrific. It's horrible. It feels like Perrin's losing another valued companion. And he hasn't just lost Matt and Rand. At some level, he's lost Egwene and Nynaeve, too. Because I know that he thinks they're off in the tower, and then he realizes they're not in this episode. But the most he can do is maybe write them a letter. It's not like they can even really write one back because he's been on the move the whole time. But I do really enjoy how in this episode, we really get to see Perrin's leadership. In his role as a leader, he comes to the forefront as he rallies his small group of companions to fight against the Seanchan. And I think that this episode in itself really like crystallizes the balance between his peaceful nature and the necessity of violence that he keeps being brought back to.
Yeah, I would agree on all of that. He's going to be met with a lot of challenges next season.
I'm so excited for him next season, honestly.
Yeah, I think his storyline from the book that next season is covering is probably my favorite storyline of that book.
Okay,
But
nice.
it's definitely, yeah, it's definitely a lot. I want to go back to something with the beginning of this episode in the ways.
Ooh, I got a question. No, not a
Ask.
question. It's not a question. It's a comment. I really enjoy that scene. I know that Lanfear is enacting her plans and she's really good, like as she is, at keeping her plans moving regardless of the setbacks. But when she basically was like, I don't know, I guess you guys can't channel in the ways, but I can, lol. And then they just disappear. It was
The way she kicks them out of the ways.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Rand's freaking out. He's like, you channeled in the ways, Ma Shin Shin. And she's like, LOL, whatever, buddy. Let's go. We got places to be.
Did you notice how they just disappeared, right?
Yeah. Which I think really speaks to how powerful she is.
Yeah. Do you want to know why she had to kick Moiraine and Lan out of the ways?
Why?
If Moiraine would have seen the weaves that Lanfear did to disappear, Moiraine would have learned how to do it.
Oh, that was really smart on Lanfear's part then.
You will notice as time goes on, we kind of pose the question, how did Mat end up in Falme, just like materializing there?
Now we know.
Now you know. And
Ooh.
these are some of those weaves that the Forsaken are guarding for themselves.
Can you blame them?
No, no, I cannot.
I don't blame them at all. I do think that, like, that scene really pumped me up for the rest of the episode because I was like, oh, this is going to be good.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about Mat.
Oh, okay. So I actually have a lot to say about Mat here.
Go for it.
First of all, dagger on a stick
For life.
for life is the standout character of this episode because at this point it's its own character. But so you know when he like first creates it and he comes out and Padan Fain is waiting there. You know,
Yes.
this is just like a quick comment about this, but something I really didn't expect was Padan Fain looking perplexed by Mat's brilliant idea and then screaming for the guards. Like, my guy,
the way he skedaddles out of there.
like, aren't you supposed to be like public enemy #1 troller that works for the Forsaken and you are screaming and running away? Like, okay. But I will say that Mat has some really good moments in this episode. And one of my favorites is when he blows the horn and it brings back his memories of who he is underneath all of that pain and trauma he's experienced in this turn of the wheel.
Yeah.
And it's a scene that I appreciate a lot more during this watch through. We see that Mat is able to tangibly experience his worthiness and the impactful like turnaround that happens in those moments of experience.
Yeah. When he says, I remember, I definitely got a lot of feels.
Yeah, it's such an awesome redemption moment for him.
Yeah, but I think what really did it for me is when he looks over his shoulder and it's Arthur Hawkwing and he's like, you know me? And he's like, I've fought by your side. I don't hundreds of times over, of course. Like, you're one of us. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't.
Yeah. No, it is. Yeah. When he fulfills his destiny by blowing the Horn of Valere and summoning the heroes of the Horn to aid in the battle, I was just gently crying again. It's such a good moment for him. And it really does kind of change things in how I see him. And you know what's another moment I really liked? And it happened right before that one. Is when Perrin is like, go, take it to Rand. And he's like, I'm not leaving you.
Yeah.
We finally see him step up into that role as like where he should have been all along. Instead of running away and hiding and avoiding, he finally steps up and is like, you know what? I'm here for you no matter like how hard this is going to be. But then Perrin's obvious like, bro, get your ass in motion and get that horn to Rand. And then he's like, oh yeah, okay, I'll go.
He really does give us best like Johnny Depp Pirates of the Caribbean, like madman running.
Yeah, but after he
like,
blows that horn, suddenly he's moving like a ballerina doing Swan Lake.
Yeah. Old Matt, old Twinkle Toes. He did a really great job too with just the physicality of fighting with the staff, you know, the dagger and the stick staff. He did a really great job up there with what I have to assume is a legion of stunt people. We have the one, I think it was, I don't remember the name of the woman that actually takes the horn from him.
I got a question about that when you're done.
Okay. She was doing like full on like martial arts side flips, like Jackie Channing it.
Yeah, she was hella impressive in that scene.
Super impressive. And so for Donald Finn to hold his own with, you know, that legion of, I'm assuming, you know, professional stunt people was pretty impressive.
It was.
What was your question?
What happens to the horn? She put it in her back pocket with magic, and then now it appears to be gone because at some point that woman will disappear. So is the horn just gone? How I thought it was trying to be saved for the last battle. This is obviously not the last battle.
I would have to assume that it materializes, after they blip back out. So, like, if, they find it laying on the ground wherever she was last at, wouldn't surprise me.
Okay. Yeah, I was just wondering because the way that it was shot made it kind of seem like it was just gone.
The horn shouldn't be gone forever.
Okay. All right.
Like you said, last battle. It
Right.
needs to be there,
Like
right?
all I've been
Right?
hearing about this whole for 2 seasons is needing the horn for the last battle.
Yeah.
Do you want
I can't go into more horn stuff.
That's fair. That's fair. Do you want to talk a little bit about Nynaeve and Elaine before we get to Egwene and Rand?
Absolutely.
I know that Nynaeve and Elaine kind of have a more withdrawn presence in this episode. It's not as heavily focused on what the two of them are doing as some of the other characters.
Yeah.
But I still really enjoy the scenes that we have from them. But I don't know how much more sideways things can go for the two of them. First, their captive takes a lucky bolt to the throat. Then Elaine takes one to the thigh, which, as we all know, is a highly dangerous area to take critical damage. But then Nynaeve is like, you know what? I'm going to push it through with the fletching on.
Yeah.
And I was like, girl, why didn't you at least try and pull it off first?
I saw someone weigh in. This wasn't too long ago. I saw someone weigh in and was like, that was a bolt from a crossbow, right? Yeah. And apparently you can't break those. So
okay.
That was her
makes
only
more
option.
sense then. Okay, that makes more sense. I will say though that like right before she gets her up and pushes that bolt through, Nynaeve telling Elaine that Egwene will need her is such a moment of growth for Nynaeve. I just love her. I don't think there's ever a point in the story where I'm not impressed by her because she's constantly growing against all odds.
Even faced with this just awful fact that she can't channel, she can't be helpful, she can't do what she needs to do, she's still thinking forward. She's still moving towards the goal. And I love that it's her and Elaine together in this, where, like you said, it really was just setback after setback.
They had great plans too.
Yeah. I think the scene that really did it for me is before they had left wherever they were kind of hiding out at. Nynaeve's got that whole Soldom outfit on and she's looking like a beast, she's got the black eyeshadow on. She's cutting pretty tough. And as a woman, like watching her and Elaine look at one another and she's like, how do I look? Elaine kind of visually assessing everything and it's like, it's good, you look good, we're good. And kind of like just that really small interaction where she's turning to Elaine and instead of being like, this is the plan, this is what I'm going to do, she's asking what feels like reassurance, like, are we good? Like, we can do this together, right? How do I look? Like, all of that just within that little one line. It felt like that's the beginning of them really as a pair, as a duo. So I really, really enjoyed that little moment. Also, when she tells the Soldom, I'll make you curse the first kiss your mother ever gave your father.
That line goes so hard.
It does.
It really does. I will say this, though. I think that Nynaeve was the right choice to wear the cuff and be the Suldam for the captive, because I just don't know if I believe that Elaine currently has it in her to enact torture.
No. That's something that's really interesting about Nynaeve, though. We talked about this trope of the healer not being able to inflict pain and how the Wheel of Time didn't do that, which is kind of nice.
It is. I think it adds a lot of depth to who Nynaeve is as a person.
Yeah, it's like, don't mistake my empathy for weakness.
Right.
And we know Nynaeve, she's incredibly empathetic, almost to a fault in some ways, but she'll really be damned if, that means leaving someone behind and not helping someone she can't help, especially Egwene, who held her own this episode regardless.
God, this is such a good episode for Egwene. Just starting with her and Renna's final showdown, that's one for the annals of history. When she gets the Adam on Renna and manages to withstand dual torture to get Renna to concede and then kills her anyway.
Yeah.
Stellar move.
This whole scene, it's basically just like, who is emotionally more powerful? Who can outlast suffering the longest? And the answer will always, within the entire series of The Wheel of Time, is always Egwene. Always.
Yeah.
Hands down.
It really symbolizes her resilience and unyielding spirit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I really love how this moment solidifies her strength. And I think it kind of sets the stage as the possibility for her being a future leader.
We will see. We will see. She's got so much ahead of her. I mean, everybody does, but
I'm excited to see what she has in store, what's in her future too. In like the last scene, it's looking grim. It's looking grim. And Egwene comes through with that big boss channeling to hold Ishii off. And like in that moment, you're like, girl, what are you doing? He's way too powerful. But I gotta say, Ishii really didn't plan for the unbridled fury of CPTSD.
I enjoy Egwene, but watching her just go beast mode like that it's really nice.
Yeah, see, I like her a lot in the show.
Yeah.
Plus, like, I keep thinking about how, she's going to be able to flex and tout around that she faced Ishamael and came out of it.
Oh, you're right. She did pick up some bragging rights.
Oh,
yeah.
She definitely did. Now, whether she brags on it is another story. I'm just saying, like, I feel like word will get around.
Yeah.
When Perrin jumps in to help her, I was like, God damn it, I'm crying again.
Yeah. It was that moment where it looked like she was about ready to
collapse.
Drop the shield, and then Perrin shows up with a literal shield.
Yeah, and he's all like, I'm right here with you. Oh. And then we have Rand.
We do have Rand.
And this is a really good episode for him, too.
Yeah, there's, Rand doesn't get a lot of star quality moments this episode, but him going up against High Lord Turak is so entertaining.
Oh, that scene is so good. I know it's short, but it is so good. He's got his little hood on, and there is just a gaggle of guards around Turak. But Rand makes his declaration, like, you guys did this to Egwene. And Lord Turak says, let's see what earning the Heron Blade means on this side of the world. But my question is, why does Turak even have a Heron Blade?
Turak would have earned it.
Right.
The Heron Mark Blade it's not just a one, there's one out there.
Oh, it's not just an Aiel thing?
It's just a symbol of being the top of the top of swordsmanship.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense. Turak just didn't realize that Rand inherited that from his mother. But I do gotta say, like, when Turak pulls that blade, dude's moving like he's in a AAA video game.
Did you notice that Rand was branded by his sword?
Yes. I think that that's like a really good bit of symbolism in there.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Tell me more.
So, like, the sword, his mother's sword is gone, But by branding it into his hand, it's like...
His father's sword, you mean?
That's his father's sword.
Well, Tam gave it to him.
Ah, okay. So that was Tam's sword. I thought Tam, like, got the sword from his mother and then gave it to him. I don't know how I got there, but that's just how I envisioned it. But I think...
No, that's really fair, actually, because that scene,
it's the scene that led me to believe that. But even if it's Tam's sword, like, the sword is gone. The physical memorabilia of Tam is gone, and Tam is gone. And I think that, like, the blade burning the imprint of the heron onto his palm is like a really nice way for him to be able to like always carry a part of Tam with him.
That's a really interesting thought that's never crossed my mind. I really like that, especially from the scope of like not being a book reader. I'm really interested in this. Would you like me to read part of the prophecy to you?
Yes, absolutely.
Just one of them. Twice and twice shall he be marked, twice to live and twice to die. Once the heron to set his path, twice the heron to mark him true. Once the dragon for remembrance lost, twice the dragon for the price he must pay. So that heron
Is his
has.
first mark to set his path, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. So when we talked about Rand kind of feeling like this is the end of his first act, yeah, that heron mark means something for him. All of these ideas that you have about it are really incredible because for one, like that's all like incredibly perceptive of just like physically what that mark is, but on top of it, there's other meanings too, and I've never been able to look at it outside of the prophecy. So I really like that.
Ah, okay. Yeah. I guess since I've never heard the prophecy, I attached more of like an emotional, intangible
Yeah.
symbolism to it. I really did think it was just like a symbolic way for him to, well, I thought his mother, but it works with Tam as well. Actually, I think it works better with Tam.
Yeah. The Aiel are notoriously anti-sword. So,
Okay, yeah. I noticed that none of them have them, but I just never put it together because I thought like, well, things change over time.
in this episode, after everything's said and done, we have like a couple little cut scenes that I think are really interesting. Rand has one, and after the battle, you get some scenes. It's just like little snippets of people down below in Falme looking up. And one is Avienda, Bane, and Chiad, and she's like, the Karakarn. Like, oh, it's him.
Yeah,
Like, we
so
found
he
him.
he seems to work for their prophecies too.
Yep. That's who she's out here in the Westlands looking for. So she's found him. We have that little scene of Lanfear looking up, so impressed with herself.
She looks so pleased in that
Yeah.
moment, and her outfit is off the chain. Like,
Yeah.
this is, I know that there's been a lot of Daughter of the Night symbolism in a lot of her outfits, but I think this one really encapsulates that idea.
Yeah. Yeah. There's like the crescent moons kind of like stacked on
Yeah,
top of one another.
and the silvery leafing in the collar that kind of almost looks like strikes of lightning on the night sky.
Yes.
I love it. It's so good.
So what they've done with Lanfear and at least I would say a little bit of Ishamael too and Moghedien, I feel like they've tried to clue us into why they're given the names that they're given and kind of building on that without giving people such a huge like info dump.
Okay.
And Lanfear, Daughter of the Night, that nickname goes pretty hard.
It does.
But it's her believing, her abilities within Teleron within the world of dreams. She's this hunter of the night, like daughter of the night. The wolves, so like think Perrin's wolves, they call her Moon Hunter. Same reason.
Ah,
Ishamael, betrayer of hope, he's yeah, he is a betrayer
yeah.
of hope. That's pretty cut and dry. Moghedien the spider, she has a couple lines here at the end where you're like, oh, okay, I get it. She's kind of throwing that back at Lanfear, like, oh, you said I was too soft, like softly, softly from the shadows. I'm not strong enough. I'm not good enough. I'm weak.
Not bold enough.
Yeah. And the way that she lays that trap for Lanfear, she had the weave set before Lanfear walked in the room. And so that was another moment that I thought was really clever because Moghedien's power level isn't near Lanfear's. She's definitely not as strong. But what we've seen with, even with Egwene throwing up that shield, a lot of the times it's whoever's first has the upper hand. And so they really showed that with Moghedien and just kind of incorporating these like spider like, webbing weaves around Lanfear. Just it looked really cool.
It did, especially because she was able to like cut Lanfear off from actually channeling.
Yeah.
And I noticed that it like left a little cut on her hand while she was inside the web. And I don't know enough to know if there's any sort of symbolism there.
I don't know, but I would say that the way that Lanfear just almost collapsed out of that after Moghedien sets her free was just
Yeah.
really indicative of like how terrified Lanfear was in that moment. And I don't think it's so much just her being afraid of Moghedien, but her realizing, oh God, all the others are out now. Because she
Yeah.
was on her way to collect those seals and hand them off to Bail Doman, who she wanted to dump them in the ocean. So,
Where they could never be found.
mm-hmm.
And she would pay him what appeared to be a small bag of gold for that.
Yeah.
It made me think when I saw like the cut on her hand appear that it was kind of like that making gods bleed thing.
Oh, go into that some more.
We see this in other fantasy elements where powerful people rise to like the ascension of belief that they have like some sort of godlike ability. And I would say that Ishamael and Lanfear definitely fall into that category.
Yeah.
Like they see themselves as godlike and their only equals are being arch nemesis with each other. And in that moment, Lanfear is shown that just because she's more powerful, it doesn't mean that that protects her.
That's a really good point. Yeah, I'm thinking back now to like so many superhero movies where you have that big overinflated ego of a villain, and as soon as you nick them with something, there's kind of that moment of realization where it's like, "Oh, well now I'm mad," or like now like there's that recognition like I am, capable of taking damage.
Yeah, it really
Like that realization.
it made me think about that scene in 300 where Leonidas chucks that spear at Xerxes and then yells something about making a god bleed. And Xerxes has like a giant overreaction to it.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I wonder what we're going to see from Lanfear the first second she's on screen next season.
One thing I will say is I really like how the last moment of the season ends with Lanfear saying, "Light help you, Randolph Thor." Like no matter what, she's riding for her man.
She really is.
Like she never stops riding for her man, even though he's not her man.
What did you think about Rand being healed by Elaine in that moment where he's like, "Who are you?" And her looking all angelic because she
Oh,
is a literal angel.
heavy foreshadowing. That's what I think. That's like really overtly obvious foreshadowing. I'm sure there's going to be some sort of connection there later on based on those few moments of him looking up at her and her looking like, an ethereal angel.
It's really giving Liv Tyler in Lord of the Rings.
Ooh, yes, it is. Oh my God, it is. Oh, that's a perfect description. I was also impressed that she was at the level where she could heal a wound from the dagger of, what is it?
Shadar Logoth.
Yeah, Shadar Logoth. I also got to say, like, the look on Matt's face when he threw dagger on a stick and was like, yeah, I'm taking Ishii down. And then the immediate failure and like Ishii coming through to be like, oh my God, that was just a simple little illusion. How did you not know? Even though I know you can't channel.
Yeah,
Like
he really got him.
peak trolling right there. Oh man, we didn't even talk about Lady Suroth's outfit. Her battle gear
Oh,
was the
yeah.
best. I loved it. Oh my
It was
God, her
great.
costuming was so killer. But like even in those moments, it was kind of sad to see like Matt finally get his confidence and his memories back. And he like so confidently comes to help Rand, and then it immediately goes to shit for him.
Yeah, so much emotion there, but you really get the idea. Like Matt, he's if Rand walks out of this, which he does, Matt's never going back to his old ways. Like he's in it to win it now.
Yeah, yeah. This was Matt's story kind of has that like Jaime Lannister redemption feel to it, where
Ooh.
he's not a bad person all along. He's just responding to his circumstances until he finds himself.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that everything about Matt, it's hard because he does get kind of this big climax moment here in this episode. And for one, it's absolutely totally necessary and needed. But I have no clue what his story will be next season.
Really?
I can't suss out from any of, the trailer, the teaser trailer, anything we've learned about the locations. I don't know where he will be or what he will be doing. It is a massive mystery to me, but I don't know if dagger on the stick will be his permanent weapon. I think it
He
will
should
be.
upgrade it. Honestly, he should send it like out to the best forger and be like, my
Well,
guy.
he's got Perrin, so Perrin's
Oh,
a
true.
blacksmith.
Yeah. I mean, and they know not to actually touch it, but like to forge an actual staff onto dagger on a stick,
Yeah.
then it's an official character.
Yeah, and that's Matt's his default weapon in the story in the books. But
How does he
I
handle
know
it?
so okay. I guess since we're like at the end here. So if you don't want any the Shadow Rising spoilers, I say
Skedaddle.
thank you. Yeah, thanks for listening. Like and subscribe. We will see you next time. But in the Shadow Rising, he is gifted this weapon, and it is not the Shadar Logoth dagger. It's the same type of weapon. It's a staff with something that's similar to a dagger on it called an Ashandari.
Okay.
This is like it's a real weapon.
Yeah, those
Like
are real weapons.
yeah, and the way that he gets it is from these kind of otherworldly entities. They're
Okay.
kind of like aliens,
Oh, I'm
extra
into that.
dimensional alien type characters. And that's how he gets it.
Okay, so like I can see where it's just kind of easier in the show to just keep,
Combine.
yeah, to
Yeah.
keep the dagger from Shadar Logoth and put it on a stick.
Yeah, it does everything that his other weapon in the books does. It
Okay.
does the exact same thing. It can cut through stuff. It's kind of magic-y. Like, it's doing the same thing.
Yeah, it was definitely magic-y.
I know a lot of people have a big gripe with this change. Personally, I've even put out. I'm not going to get too much into the whole Brandon Sanderson thing because that was just what a mess. But when Brandon Sanderson came out and was like, it shouldn't have been that, that's not Matt's storyline,
Oh,
he
I'm
had his
sorry.
reasons. Yeah.
Didn't know you were the original author.
Brandon Sanderson had a problem with it because he doesn't think that Matt's storyline or any of the themes here should be Matt utilizing darkness for himself. That's not a part of his story. I completely beg to differ because this is actually something that I'll link that video in the description here, but later on in the story, Matt does the exact same thing in a different setting where he tactically uses something of the dark to fight for the light. And in the later books, Matt does that, and it was actually from the mind of Brandon Sanderson.
Okay.
This, spoiler, big spoiler for the whole, book series here, but it's called Hinder's Tap. If you know Hinder's Tap, this will click. But Matt uses something that is kind of this like bastardized, crumbling aspect of the world dying due to the shadow and uses it tactically in battle. And so for Brandon Sanderson to say, like, Matt wouldn't do that, I'm like, sir, you wrote that. That was you, not Robert Jordan. So, like, I feel a lot of things about that.
I don't know. Like, I think being like, shouldn't do that because it's wrong turns this into Tolkien, where heroes are good for the sake of being good and villains are bad for the sake of being bad. And I think that would kind of gut the story of everything that makes it intriguing.
I think so too. And I don't so much mind people not enjoying it because it's different. Like, it's everyone's free to be like, yeah, wasn't a fan of it, right? Like, it's
Right.
not going to bother me. But I think with this one instance, I'm like, well, maybe I am a little bit bothered because it's like you're looking at something in such a strict way where you forget there's a whole other segment of Matt's like tactical genius because he did what you said he shouldn't be doing. And
He's an ideas man.
he is. And that's this whole thing about him saying, I remember. Matt, via this, moment with the Heroes of the Horn, Matt's past lives aren't exactly what Ishamael showed through the tea drinking ceremony.
Right. He just
Matt,
like, yeah, go
yeah,
ahead.
like, well, Matt has these memories of being, like leaders, like military leaders, the best leaders that ever were. And I just think Matt, there's so much more to him in this instance for his story. The dagger thing, it's not a big deal. Like, it's not. If him getting dagger on a stick means that we don't see our extra dimensional weirdos, it'll kind of suck. But it still might happen. Like, there are other things that he gets from these creatures that are still needed for his story.
Okay. They might just be saving it for later.
Yeah, I'm not writing it out. It could still happen.
Well, it could still happen as soon as next season, too. Now that I know this, it seems very plausible that in the early stages of next season, we're going to see that happen because, like, dagger on a stick can't actually be handled. So, like, I could see that situation still unfolding in a way that genuinely makes sense.